A single phone call, a private invitation, and an offer that few saw coming. Buckingham Palace is apparently preparing a room for Prince Harry during his next visit to the United Kingdom. But the real story isn't the room itself. It's what had to happen behind closed doors for that offer to even land on the table. And the fact that this gesture arrives right after a behind-the-scenes accommodation battle that, according to one insider, turned into an absolute nightmare. The question now is not just whether Harry will accept. The bigger question is whether this signals a permanent shift or merely a temporary truce in a family saga that has kept the world guessing for years. According to reports that surfaced in the British press, King Charles is set to offer his younger son a room at Buckingham Palace in London when the Duke of Sussex returns to the UK this September. The report, published by The Sun, has not been confirmed by either Buckingham Palace or representatives for Prince Harry. When reached by People, both sides declined to comment, which, in royal terms, often says more than a statement ever could. The silence alone is enough to raise eyebrows because it leaves a vacuum that gets filled with exactly one thing: speculation. And what makes this particularly compelling is the timing. The olive branch is being extended just weeks after Harry, Meghan Markle, and their two children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, shared a rare reunion with King Charles at Highgrove House. That visit marked the first time the king had seen his California-based grandchildren since 2022, a detail that stopped me cold when I first read it. Think about that gap. 3 years where a grandfather did not see his son's kids in person, and now suddenly there's a room waiting at the palace. But to understand why this offer feels so unexpected, you have to rewind to what happened in July, because that visit exposed a level of dysfunction that even seasoned royal watchers found difficult to process. Prince Harry returned to the UK for a series of engagements, and what should have been a routine family coordination turned into a public back and forth over something as basic as where he would sleep. Sources claim that King Charles initially offered Harry and his family the use of a royal residence. That offer, according to one version of events, was declined. Then, later, Harry reportedly tried to accept the same offer, only to be told by palace officials that the deadline had passed and the window was closed. Two completely different accounts of the same sequence, each painting a very different picture of who was being difficult and why. Whatever actually happened, the result was a private family matter splashed across headlines, and the fallout, according to a source close to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, was quite stressful. Royal author Russell Myers put it even bluntly, saying that what was billed as a big homecoming, not only for Harry but potentially for Meghan as well, turned into a nightmare and became further evidence of the fractiousness of Harry's relationship with the institution. Notice the wording there. The institution, not just his family, but the centuries-old machinery that surrounds it. And that distinction is where things start to feel less like a family disagreement and more like a structural standoff with no easy resolution. Because if the deadline for a bedroom can become a breaking point, you start to wonder what other doors have been permanently closed. Harry and Meghan's housing history inside the royal fold is its own tangled timeline. They began at Nottingham Cottage on the grounds of Kensington Palace, a home that Harry later described in terms that suggested it was less than palatial. They then moved to Frogmore Cottage in Windsor, a property gifted by the late Queen Elizabeth II, where they lived until their decision to step back from royal duties in 2020 and relocate to California. After that departure, the couple was asked to vacate Frogmore entirely, a move that many interpreted as a clear signal that their presence on royal estates was no longer welcomed in the same way. That eviction, combined with the ongoing security dispute, created a situation where every return trip became a logistical and emotional minefield. And that's why the Althorp detail matters. For part of their recent UK visit, Harry, Meghan, and the children stayed not at a royal residence, but at Althorp, the Spencer family's 13,000-acre ancestral estate. That's the place where Princess Diana grew up, and it's also where she is buried. Harry's uncle, Charles Spencer, hosted the family, giving Archie and Lilibet a rare opportunity to learn about a grandmother they will never meet in person. Think about the symbolic weight of that choice. The Duke of Sussex, unable to stay on palace grounds due to a combination of security protocols and institutional friction, retreats instead to his mother's childhood home. The message is subtle but unmistakable. Heritage matters, belonging matters, but where that belonging is allowed to exist remains deeply contested. Now, the king's reported offer of a Buckingham Palace room seems designed to reverse that narrative, at least on the surface. A room in the sovereign's official residence is not merely a convenience, it's a statement of legitimacy, a signal that Harry is still recognized as a member of the family, despite the Atlantic Ocean and multiple public statements separating him from the working royals. But is it enough to undo the damage caused by a security battle that has dragged on for years without resolution? That's the part that makes me skeptical, and you might feel the same once you hear what Harry himself has said.
In a previous interview with the BBC, Prince Harry didn't hold back. He explained that he could not see a world in which he would bring his family back to his home country without the police protection they lost after stepping back from their official roles. He went on to say that what his children are going to miss is, and I quote, everything. He said he misses the UK, parts of it anyway, and that it is really quite sad that he won't be able to show his children his homeland. That is not just a complaint about logistics, that's an emotional wound that no palace bedroom can immediately heal. And the situation is made more complicated by the fact that a formal review of Harry's security arrangements by the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures, known as RAVIC, had reportedly not yet concluded as of late June. Representatives for the Duke of Sussex have pointed out that RAVIC's own rules call for a risk management board review at least once a year, yet Harry's last review was conducted nearly 7 years ago. That's not a delay, that's a gap that raises very uncomfortable questions about whether the system is functioning as intended or whether other forces are slowing things down. So you have a king extending a hand, a prince who wants to accept but can't ignore the unresolved safety question, and 2 children who are old enough to notice that their connection to half their heritage comes with conditions. The September visit will test more than just sleeping arrangements. It will test whether the family can function outside of headlines, deadlines, and leaked accounts of private conversations. And that's before we even get to what comes next summer, when Prince Harry is expected to return to the UK for the 2027 Invictus Games, being held in Birmingham. That event is not a quiet family reunion. It's a global spotlight, with cameras everywhere and a narrative that will either be one of healing or of continued distance. The choice, it seems, is still being written in real time, and the room at Buckingham Palace is just the first line of that next chapter. The real question isn't whether he'll sleep there, it's whether sleeping there changes anything at all, or simply reminds everyone how much space still exists between a palace and a home.